Good morning, Unity family. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you. For those who don't know, I spent a week in Chautauqua, which is upper state New York-ish. It's the southwestern, about 90 miles from Buffalo. And I want you to know, when people come, it's not just for ministers. A lot of lay people have homes up there. This is 18 different religions represented there. I went to a Christian Science workshop. I went to a workshop on Islam. I would love to have them come. I did Sunday service, so I didn't get a day off. And I did a workshop on Did God Have a Wife? And some of you were part of that when I did it here. So a magical experience. It can be 1 week or 9 weeks. So if you ever want to get away in the summer out of this heat, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. Open hearts, open spirits, just magnificent place, Chautauqua, New York. So today, Reverend Greg Barrett, if you have not met him, he's been on the stage. He's also done some fun little workshops for us, and he's got a class coming up that I'm going to let him tell you about. But we are going to do Stump the Ministers. And if you've never played that, we have some questions that have been posed. And then if we don't run out of time, we'll pause. And if there's something you want to know how Unity looks at it, fire away. Sound good? That. So today we're doing something a little different. If you don't know, this is Reverend Greg Barrett next to me. And he's had a full Unity career because I said together we have a century of experience.
Yeah, I would say so. Easily. Actually,
Yeah.
I think you're being modest.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
You think so? So one of the things I love about Greg, when we've gone and kind of dissected some things, or I've asked for wisdom because he might be my elder, just a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit. So we went to lunch one day, and we were in, was that Tarpon Springs?
Yeah, Tarpon Springs.
The little restaurant that we went to?
Oh, yeah, Bread and Butter Deli.
Have y'all been there? Oh my gosh. Well, we were having so much fun. This lady at the other table that we didn't know, she went, "Who are you and what do you do?" Do you remember what you said?
No.
It was kind of like one of those, well, if we told you we'd have to kill you sort of things. I thought that wasn't very ministerial.
What did they say?
It was something like that.
Oh, was it?
It was something like that. But she was so intrigued with us, I thought, oh, we should bring it to the road and come up on the stage and share some wisdom with you. Would that be all right? Yeah. Okay, good. So I want to tell you a true story, and then I'm going to turn some things over to Greg. So yesterday was the end of my week-long adventure in Chautauqua. And I wanted to go to this place that another minister had said to me called Lilydale. Now, I was not familiar with spiritualist. Have you heard the term? Yes. So these are people that don't necessarily look into the future, but there's a whole movement that came around in the 1800s, if not before, of people who do connect with messages from the beyond. And I thought, I'm going to go do this. So I was headed down, and I was like 5 miles outside the gate of Chautauqua. Now, I had been parked at Chautauqua all week, and I took one little excursion off to the falls. But other than that, I had been a really good girl. So I came outside the gate. I'm about 5 miles. It's not really my township. I'm looking around. Seems like the guy behind me is going really fast. Curvy roads. This is where bicycles are, little farm stands are. And I see the yellow blinking lights with a pedestrian crossing, and this kind of burly man is getting something to take across the way, and so I slow down. I make eye contact with the gentleman. I stop. Bam! The guy behind me did not stop. Does it ever happen? And it's just like that. Couldn't move, couldn't control the situation. Life happens. Life happens. Then as a little shaky after an accident. So I pull up and over, and I did not know his airbag deployed, so his vehicle was not movable. But this big burly guy gets out, and he walks over to me, and he's an EMT of the fire department. Again, I'm like, so God, what did I do to cause this? What is my journey about to have this big accident in a rental car in another state? And what I could think about was the little guy at the rental car station, oh, you should buy the insurance, it's only $12 a day. And if you buy the insurance and anything happens, I'm like, wrong energy, dude. If anything happens, we take care of it. So I'm sitting in this rental car, and the first thing I do is look down and feel the back of my head, make sure there's no blood. Everything's good. And then I'm, out of the car, and he does come over to see if I'm okay. Then the fire chief shows up, and other people show up. Anyways, we get all that taken care of, and I'm back and forth with the other minister at Chautauqua. And she said, oh, your flight's not till 6. I'll come meet you and have lunch. Well, there's nothing anybody can do. So I decided to go on to Lilydale. I want to have another adventure. I mean, come on. But do you get to that point in your life, do you ever question, why do bad things happen to good people? So that minister came out in me going, what did I do to cause this? I am going to ask Greg to jump in here. Do you have a little something around what did I do to cause this?
Well, everything's the law of cause and effect, but it's not done according to appearances. That is all an illusion. And when we're told to not judge by appearances, you don't just say, well, what's in your consciousness that you drew this to yourself? And when somebody ever said that to me, I always say, well, your nose is. But the truth is that cause and effect operates over millennia. The causes may be so far out of our conscious awareness that we don't have access to them. So to ask ourselves, what did I do in my consciousness? We may never know consciously. We just need to know it's ours to meet the situation with spiritual principle, to show up in the magnificence that we are, and to understand that it's all about forgiveness. And so you could call it karma, I suppose, because it goes from lifetime to lifetime, and we may never know what caused it, but we can know that our job right now is to forgive ourselves, forgive everyone else, and to do our spiritual work.
So what I thought of as I was there, because most of us have been in some accident at some point in time, and back in Georgia, it happened a couple of times with my son in the car, and as the mother, the protective mother, I was very attached to the situation. But I got really calm after this situation, and I thought, if it's not something for me to learn here, except how I react to the situation, how do we react when something happens that we have no control over? Those of you who know me, I like to plan things. I like to set intentions. I like to visualize the end game. That was not in the plan. That was not in the plan. He was okay. I was okay. Half the department showed up. As long as they pay the piper, I don't care now. But I am curious, thank you, I am curious, like from my own personal growth and development, I stayed really calm. There was no blame, even though it's his fault. There was really no blame. I wasn't angry at him. I was a little upset and shaken up, but once I came into myself, I really did think, why spoil the next 6 hours worrying about something I have no control over? Do we ever do that? Do we take some little something that happens to us and man, we're just going to mill over it and twist it and turn it and decipher it, and we get in there and we analyze it. We just beat it to death. And what does that do to help you in your wholeness going forward? You have just wasted your time and God's time. Yeah, would you say? Because none of that stuff, besides we either lose our hair or get gray, get wrinkled, get heart attacks, it's not changing what happened in the illusion. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's beautiful. I think we need to understand that it's ours to show up in the moment and be in the now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Greg mentioned a little area about forgiveness. So we actually had a question online that I'm going to read, and then I'm going to ask him to expand on it, because forgiveness is a tool that releases us from the attachment of whatever happened, whoever was a part of whatever the experience was. And it's also, I'm going to let him go into it, but I want to read this. This was asked online. Regarding forgiveness, how do you forgive someone who believes that they have truly done no wrong, even though you have been betrayed and deeply hurt by their actions. And now the friendship is ultimately destroyed.
Well, let me tell you a story. There's something called the University of Forgiveness in the Netherlands, or at least there was. And the two nurses who were therapists who founded the University of Forgiveness, which was in the 1950s, were working with Holocaust survivors. And the whole purpose of this wonderful place, it was a retreat center, was to help people who had been in Auschwitz, in Dachau, who had survived the Holocaust, to get through the trauma that they were experiencing. So although this is a very dramatic story that she was talking about, that she got online, this is really where the metal hits the road. And they wrote a book called How to Forgive When You Don't Know How, which comes in and out of print, but I highly recommend it. You can get a used copy. It's very thin. But it strips away all the illusions about forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about changing anybody else. First of all, as a woman once said to me, the only time you ever can change somebody is when they're a baby. You know, you can't get anybody else to change. People may choose to change, but that's not what forgiveness is about. And in the situation of the Holocaust, you can't change what happened. The people who did it, many of them are gone, and many of them are still absolutely in their belief system. But here I am, a person who's gone through this terrible experience, they would say to these two women, and what do I do to get past this? Because I'm being eaten alive with the feelings that I have. It's destroying the quality of my life. I'm having all these physical ailments, all these psychological ailments. It's a truly terrible, desperate situation, and I can't get those people to change. If forgiveness had anything at all to do with getting anyone else to change, those people might as well just hang it up. There'd be no hope. But in working with these Holocaust survivors, they found out what worked and what didn't work, what was helpful and useful and what was not helpful and useful. And what was most helpful was to take responsibility for your own feelings and know that no one else is going to necessarily respond to anything you do. So forgiveness is not about changing anyone else. It's about healing your heart and not carrying it around with you. As one of the Holocaust survivors said, Hitler took the lives of my aunt, my uncle, my brother, my sister, and all these different people. And here I am, and I'm not going to let him take the rest of my life either.
Yeah.
So it's my choice what I'm going to do. Now you say, well, forgive Hitler. Forgiving doesn't mean that you give license to, that you approve of, that you like, that anything. It just means that you no longer, you let go of, you process and release the resentment, the hate, the anger that you're holding within yourself, but you have to let go of your unrealistic and illusionless expectations such as, I'll just forgive and forget. To forgive and forget is not possible. You can forgive and move past and so, quote, forget your resentment, but those situations happen. I remember John F. Kennedy once said, I forgave all of my enemies, but I remember their names. So they said, these two women said that if you try to forgive and forget, you're letting go of useful, helpful, learning experiences for your soul. And so the forgiveness is something you do within your own heart for your own soul. And so it's an inner work for yourself.
So I would say the individual who put this request out to us, it is again about looking within. What brings me peace? If I want to stay stirred up in battle, then that's where my energy is flowing. I am blaming someone outside of me, regardless of appearances, and the only person that is hurting is me. So if I want to be free, then it's my responsibility to detach from that. And, you know, there are real tools about working with forgiveness to go through a process. Colin Tipping did one. He wrote a book, and he went across the country and also into Canada and also into England. And he said, when you're at odds with somebody, imagine a heart between you and them. lovingly, it's called radical forgiveness, lovingly place your emotions in that heart. Because to go through that heart to the other side, that almost serves as this, I'll call God barrier, this place that absorbs that animosity, because it's very, very difficult to love and hate at the same time. Those emotions, that love and fear, how do you hold both in your spiritual nature? So what does it take for you to bring somebody in your heart space? And if you need to physically imagine a loving, gentle, gracious heart between you and the person, and continue to feed that emotion base, because it's all about you. The other person may or may not change. The other person may or may not even care that you're having to do this work. But it's for you, so that you can come out on top for yourself. And it's not about that ego space. It's just about knowing that the same God that loves you loved Hitler. Loved any of those politicians you don't like right now. Loves that school shooter that we don't understand. There's no us and them in the collective consciousness. And that's some hard work to do. You had that mother that wasn't very nice to you growing up. How does it work now that she's gone and you still harbor those feelings? Where do we learn to say, I've had enough? I am going to be gentle and gracious and loving to me because I deserve it. Because the God of my kingdom says that I am already perfect and true, just the way I am. I am already that loving expression of the divine. Don't let someone else rob you of it. Yeah? A little bit of work there sometimes. Anything else you want to add?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So here's another one that some of y'all might have heard, because I hear it often. And you can imagine, I was kind of the outside kid, even coming to Chautauqua. 18 pretty regular religions, traditional religions, concepts, whatever. And they're like unity. And most of the time they go, oh, Unitarian, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know what they do. This is what we do. But the question is, are you a cult? Have y'all heard that? Yes. When I first got divorced, I was married to a Jewish man. He didn't pay any attention to all the things I did until we got divorced. And then he was very concerned what his children were being subjected to. So he came to church. He went to Sunday school with them. And I was like, oh, here we go. And then he came and sat in the sanctuary with me. And I will be very honest with you, that was my sanctuary. That was my God time. And I said, dude, there's a reason we got divorced. I can't sit beside you. I need this time. However, to me, a cult has been defined as one of those religions that's regarded as unorthodox. Well, a lot of people think we're unorthodox. We don't follow all the ways that maybe the more traditional sources do. However, we have the freedom to choose. If unity works for you and you have fun on Sunday morning and Wednesday night and gatherings and studying, then you're always at choice. You're always at choice. Fillmore, our co-founders, he said, question everything. If it's not working for you, dig a little deeper.
Yeah, a cult controls people, and I don't know if you've interacted with everybody else in this room, but can you control these other people here? This is the least controlling group I've ever been in, Unity. So Unity's definitely not a cult. However, the people that call Unity a cult tend to be a little bit controlling. So
my way is the only way. Ever heard that?
That's that.
Yes, I wanted to answer that one. And then here's a real big one. Does anybody want to ask us something before I give another one? Are we okay? Okay. So, and I want Greg's opinion on this one. What is the difference between spirit and soul?
Well, it's semantical. If you look out there, if you read all these books that are out there, when they talk about soul, they are talking about the higher self, the divine self. In Sri Lanka, you call it the Buddha nature. In northern India, you call it Atman. In Christianity, you call it Christ consciousness. That is that perfected aspect of your beingness. And most people, that's what they call the soul. But Charles Fillmore had a more nuanced definition, which is why there's confusion here. And his was that was spirit. Spirit is that beyond nature of you that is absolutely spiritual, but your soul is evolving through space and time, lifetime after lifetime, and developing in its consciousness into the Christ consciousness. So in potential, the soul is that spiritual consciousness, but it is evolving and carries with it all of its experiences, emotions, and thoughts and beliefs. So if you read in a book, they're talking about soul, and it sounds a little different than what you read in Fillmore, it's because he had a more nuanced understanding of it. Soul is becoming that spiritual perfection, but is in the process of evolution.
You know, that's how we look at Jesus. We look at Jesus as our way shower, because Charles Fillmore said our job in this earthly realm is the evolution of our soul. So if we can do that Jesus did and more, which was declared for all of us, to me that begins as a loving presence, to accept others right where they are. When he went to the well and met with the woman from Samaria, and he said to her all these things that she was amazed that he knew, but he also saw within her already pure perfection. And what did she do? She took that good news and ran to the township to talk about this marvelous, incredible being who knew her at depth, who already knew her at depth. And we are already on this cellular evolution path, and that we are already right now, as we are, pure and perfect. And we strive to facilitate something that is going to be more enriching for us as we grow and go further, attracting in our teachers, attracting in metaphysical teachings, having gatherings, going into our centered silence time to better understand our own relationship with our God nature, because everybody in here has one that is probably slightly different. And our own truth comes from that communion with our God. Yes? How does that feel? Does that feel rich? Does it feel something we can do, or does it seem so vast that we're like, okay, I am going to go for the stars or go for the moon and land in the stars? What's that little saying?
Aim for the stars and land on the moon? I don't know.
So go big. Go big. Imagine what you can imagine. Hold those infinite possibilities out there and just take one little step at a time. I know that we're going to conclude what we're doing up here, but if there's any jewels you want to add to the plate, I want to give you an opportunity.
Well, thank you. I can't think of anything. I think we're doing just fine.
Wait, that sounds like we stumped the minister.
You stumped the minister. And wasn't even a question.
So thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us at the door. Feel free to come to my office. Greg is spending some time with us. When's your next workshop?
A week from tomorrow, that's Monday, a week from Monday from 2 to 3.
Right here. And then he was talking about some of the forgiveness work. So I'm going to see if we can bring them back into a forgiveness workshop as well. So thank you. Sweet blessings to everyone on your own cellular journey. Amen.